Hello and welcome to TMKF Netrunner. We're doing the tournament report for the recent Aldershot Regional. That was like a week and a bit ago, but just now getting to it. And the report's in. He's washed. He's bad at Netrunner. Not Yeti. He used to be good at Netrunner in his heyday, but now he's old. 6 months ago he could do it, but no longer. Uh, no, I don't think that's quite true or fair, but yeah, well, we can get into it all. In terms of very quickly talking about my deck lists, my runner list is unchanged from my previous version of it. This is I think still like the best version of Hashiko, um, and it's the one that at this regional, Augustus Caesar would take to first place, playing a modified version of my list. He added 8 cards, some of which are like astounding choices. um, Tech for matchups that you didn't need to tech for, I think. And we'll go to prove a point about or like goes to prove a point that I think is we were talking about this in the UK Discord like not that long ago. Um, that I just think that like being good at Netrunner, or like the way that Netrunner is made up, your deck is very important. Your deck can like win the game. Your deck does something your opponent isn't prepared for or expected, or their deck can't deal with, and your deck can win you the game. But for the most part, as a player, you can win the game with almost like any deck. And yeah, being good at Netrunner is about like consistency and being able to make the right choice on every click of the game. So even if you bring like an objectively worse deck, like Augustus did, you can still win games. Um, and then my Corp list is actually Augustus Caesar's PD list, with a couple of changes. He had an Ansel that I've changed into a Mick. I like the Ansel like never did anything on res to me. I think that's one of those ones where I totally understand putting it in, and I think like my this version is like more safe, more vanilla. I'd be curious to know like if Augustus had explicit justification for the Ansel, but like I don't think this is a major change. And the other one is that I've turned the Mavirus into the last Spin Doctor. In all of the testing I've done with this list, like none of the good decks are playing Mavirus. But it turns out for this tournament, when I was playing like exclusively on bottom tables, there was a lot of viruses around, and I would have loved Mavirus. I think in like every game, and in most games, I had positions where I thought if this Spin Doctor I was holding in my hand was the Mavirus, I'd be in like such a better spot. So maybe that was the right call. You don't need the third Spin Doctor, and the third Spin Doctor was not here because I was like, I need to be able to use it. The third Spin Doctor was here because I felt in testing like the Movirus wasn't doing anything, um, which turns out it would have done lots of stuff. So that's everything with the lists. They are yeah. Why didn't I play the RH? I didn't play the RH because uh, at the previous tournament, Midlands regionals, I had basically been like tired and sleep deprived a little bit, and just like off my game, And I felt like the RH was too punishing of like small mistakes. That if you're playing optimally, it can really set up positions where your opponent like doesn't have outs. Whereas I felt with this that yeah, so I was like, okay, well, if I go to a regionals, I don't really want to play a game, play a deck that could just like lose because I'm bad. I'm not playing that great. So I switched to this. And it turns out like PD is basically the exact same. If there are a few games in here that if I was one credit different or whatever, it's a win. And that's something I maybe should have known. Playing PD does just feel more comfortable and easier though. I like this deck. I think it's very fun. I'm glad that in the recent AMA, the standard balance team basically said PD is great and we're happy that it exists and it will be around forever. Because I agree. That's like, yeah, I love PD. So yeah, that's basically it. And then yeah, we'll move on to playing the tournament. Um, so yeah, basically I was coming off of the loss at Midlands, feeling or like the poor performance at Midlands. There was more than one loss in there. Feeling feeling like a bit dejected and just like a little bit. I'd been on like a high with Netrunner, and I really wanted to like reassert. And it was like a smaller field that I knew was going to be sharky, and but I was bringing decks I had a lot of confidence in. Could very reasonably argued that they're like two of the best decks. I like reg decks. I'm not playing Shaper. Uh, I can't play Shaper, but like apart from that, like it's pretty much as good as it gets. Um, so yeah, I wanted to do well, and it was probably that sense of like wanting to feel prepared and ready for it that meant that I like didn't sleep at all. Well, I did sleep. I didn't sleep well the night before. I actually have a graph of how well I slept um, from the night before, which made me laugh because I woke up in the morning uh, and like I had been aware that I was like awake, staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours during the night. And when I woke up, I was like, "Oh, how much did I actually get?" And roll over, and I look at the graph of my sleep, and I'm like, "What the hell? This is like the best sleep that I've got in like months. What's going on?" And then I looked closer, and then I realized it says until 2:52 a.m. That's the last time I slept. So I just lay there for 3 hours before my alarm went off and I got up to uh go to the tournament. Um, so success, we've managed to like ruin a night's sleep before a tournament again. This time I went to bed at like a reasonable time and didn't even do anything fun, just worried about playing Netrunner, I guess. So yeah, there's that. And but yeah, broadly, I like I'll talk about it as I go through. Broadly, that was one of the factors. I even in like the Midlands thing, I don't really think like that was the main factor stopping me from doing well. But I get out of bed, I make sandwiches for Cobra Bubbles, Freedan, and Ashbow, and we drive in Freedan's car to Aldershot, and it's supposed to be about a 3.5 hour drive, but that factors in some stops to get electricity in his electric car, um, where we're gonna like stop and have some breakfast. So I think everything's like going pretty well. We're maybe like 5-10 minutes behind schedule leaving off, but like when it's not too much of a worry. I think the first charging station we go to is like out of order or something. And so there's a momentary panic, but we redivert. But I don't think that's like a maneuver that costs us more than like 15 minutes. And we've got like, you know, 45 minutes built in stuff to go wrong. Um, and yeah, and then so we keep going, and then we're like basically getting close to Aldershot. And the sat nav's like, you will be at the venue in like 25 minutes. And then there's a lot of traffic on the road, and it's like really slow. We're moving along at 20 miles an hour, and the sat nav just keeps saying you'll be there in like 25 minutes for half an hour. Just like, yeah, just every time a minute passes, our estimated arrival time is delayed by a minute. And it seems to not have factored in all of this traffic around us. And it's just like, there's just time leeching away. And I'm just staring down this sat nav until eventually I know we're going to be late for the tournament. Um, and so, yeah, we're running late. We're running quite late. And Cobra Bubbles turns to me. He sat in the front, turns around to me and says, "Well, at least they can't start the tournament without us. You've got all the prizes, Ewan." And that's the moment when I realized I forgot all of the prizes. Oh dear. Yep, all of the playmats and all of the arts for the tournament, I forgot to bring them all the way. I did like a whole ritual pack in my bag, counting out my deck, making sure that all of my like sleeves were still good, and did all of that. Did I remember to like grab the most like important bit, which was all the prizes? No. Oh, so I have to text Loki ahead of time and be like, FYI, no prizes. And we're going to be 45 minutes late to the tournament. And it's like all not good. Like all of this is very bad. And so eventually we arrive in Aldershot and we like go into this car park and it's clearly the wrong car park and I'm like jumping out in the rain trying to like read the signs, trying to figure out where it is we're supposed to go to park. Eventually we like find our way into this multi-story car park and I need to use the bathroom really, really bad. I need to wee something fierce. So I have to like run off into the shopping center attached to the car park, find somewhere to use the bathroom, and then run to the venue, 45 minutes late. And as I like run up two flights of stairs to get to the top, I come into the room and everyone's booing me. The whole crowd just lets out like a in unison boo, and I'm like, I think that's kind of funny. Like I think that that's in good taste, and I like there are lots of people in that room who know me well enough to know that that is a like I will find that funny, and I do. But I also then like as soon as the booing stops, round one starts, and I have to sit down and like get my act together and start playing. And I am tired, sweaty, flustered, and just like totally frazzled basically by the time we turn up. It's like, yeah, this is the first regional that I like drove to on the day, with all of the other ones I'd like stayed over the night before. And like making it the difference it makes waking up in the city that you go to the tournament in is huge. I think if you're thinking about going to Netrunner tournaments and like you have the option of going over the night before, potentially meeting up with some folks, you should do that. That's like super fun and it will make the morning of like way more relaxing. Um, but yeah, so not the best way to start the day, but we go into round one, and who am I sat against? I'm sat against Baram Wu, who is like really good, um, playing Arasana and Agin Fusion. Um, and so I'm playing PD first game against the Arasana. I shuffle up, and turn one bar like massively overextends to get a Rashida's in the remote. Um, he does some like crazy kick flips off of muses and other stuff to like get into my remote server. I can't even remember how he did it, but it was like a lot. and he basically goes to no money and gets Morishida, and I'm like feeling okay about that trade. Like I've got stuff in hand that means I can recover, and I'm not sure that he will. He like I think he might have spent all of the cards in his hand to crack this server. Um, and so yeah, I like push out 4 points. Money isn't that easy, but it's also like fine. And I get to the point where I've seen this in hand. Uh, Mick unresed on the remote and like a Bran resed on the remote and some defensive upgrades. So he can't get in, basically. And I have Ikra in hand, so I install, advance, and I can score the Ikra, but I've got one click left. And so I am thinking about it, and I've got some ice in my hand, and I think, how do I lose this game? You know, that classic question you're supposed to ask yourself: what can go wrong from here? And the thing that can go wrong for me is he just wins on R&D. He's Shaper. I'm sure he's got something to win off of R&D. And so my last click, I ice R&D. I think it cost me a credit. And say, pass to you. And maybe about 10 seconds pass before I realise that if he runs the remote server and I have to res this mic, I don't think he can break it and get in. But I will be down to 2 credits, which is not enough credits for me to win next turn. And I'm also realising that I can't res that ice I put on R&D if he runs the remote server for like similar reasons. It's not looking good. He runs the remote, we res the mic, we're 1 credit short of winning. He can't do anything else. Gets access to R&D, doesn't win the game, I think. Doesn't have any multi-access pressure. And but then like I click for some credits and I think he gets in and steals the Ikwa, and then the game's on goes on for a few more turns, but it's really over and I lose the game. Um, yeah, making that mistake does feel very sad. But we came in very flustered and we lost the first game. And that's like, when I sat down for that first game, I like prepared myself mentally to be like, you don't have to win this game. You know, you're going to do everything in your power to win this game. But if you make a mistake and you lose, that's like normal, acceptable behavior. So I don't feel too bad and go into my Hashiko game against his Agon Fusion. And we get off to a really good start. We can test an early remote score, and we steal 3 points off of R&D, and he's clearly managing a lot of flood. And then I totally overextend for like absolutely no reason. One of those games where you get to 5 points, and every time they put something in the remote server, you think to yourself, that could be the win. If I just run this server and get in, I can get in. If that's the agenda, I win the game. And then it's not the agenda, and you just spent like a bunch of resources. And in this instance, I just like banhard through shit. I had like no business banharding through. I think I let like a Nancy's fire. Just terrible, like just a habit that I thought like I'd broken a long time ago. I think I probably have, and it was again just the like the tiredness of it all. I think yeah. And we lose. He scores out. Might have gone to time, can't remember, but he scores out. And I can't win the game. I guess with my good accesses after I get to 5 points, there's like definitely situations, and I get a bunch of like more off and more just like misses all the agendas. So yeah, we lose. We get swept round 1 by Bar. Bar's very good, and I came into this in like the worst possible position, so I'm not feeling too bad. And I go and I sit down from a cross player. I think it's called Evie, who I hadn't met before, and is part of the like Reading crew. Who I think Reading. Oh, I could be getting so wrong, but newer player, part of like a scene in the UK who I hadn't met before, so I was actually really excited to play against, and she was really really lovely. I actually really enjoyed playing against them, and it was one of those ones where like when Evie did something cool, like played some cool Netrunner, had like a massive smile on their face, and it was like um watching somebody enjoy running like that much was like really fun. So yeah, I had like a really fun two games against them. That said, game one is me against their Zaya, where they like turn one, run R&D is still 2 points. Turn two, run R&D, steal 2 points. Boomerang inside job the remote, steal Luminol from the remote. So they're on 6 points at the end of like turn two. And I'm feeling rough because I've got three agendas in it. um, but I think to myself, like, one of the things I think about PD, which is why people have been cutting spin doctors from PD and why like that's totally okay, is that essentially like PD doesn't mind holding the three agendas that it wants to win the game in hand from turn one. Like, you're gonna need to draw them eventually. HQs as final place as any. Like, you want to have the agendas when you go to score them so you can win on turn 8. And also, like, any agenda past 7 points, like, doesn't matter to you or your plan, right? It was just going to get in the way a little bit. So I, like, don't think that losing points as PD is, like, should feel that bad. I really don't. And this is exactly one of those games where I'm, like, able to just ice up centrals, put some big ice on centrals, some ice on the remote with some upgrades, and just score to 7. Like, yeah, we lost 6 points early, and there were a couple of squeaky accesses, but like the agenda density is low enough. 3 of the agendas are out of the game by like turn 5. 5 of the agendas are out of the game. Like, um, so we feel good, and we win. So our first win of the day. I think like pretty standard PD game. I think I played well. I think that they probably got like a little screwed on draw. It looked like they were digging for a long time for breakers. Um, but yeah, uh, pretty standard stuff. And then second game they were playing PE, and this is a I've written in my notes that it's see how they run, but it's not see how they run. It's bring them home. It's that kind of bring them home false lead PD, which interestingly EA Sports teammate Davs131 had been practicing in the last week and took to French Nats, where he won French Nats playing with this PE deck. And the PE deck, I think, is really good. I think that, especially if you like playing PD, which like not everyone does. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. Like I really flip flop on it. Um, Actually, a really solid deck. Um, and yeah, um, so yeah, eventually we go through the game. I'm quite like practiced playing against PE, and I'd said to Cobra Bubbles in like the week before playing that as Hoshiko, you should never really lose a game to PE. Like it just shouldn't happen. So I'm taking very conservative lines. I get to 5 points. I'm making a few accesses. I know that I can like win the game soon. Trash the stuff on the board, and um, there's one turn where I steal I think it's the Fuji to get to 5 or something, and um, I like draw a card or something just that I don't die, and they their turn is they fire a Rashida at the start of their turn that they get off. They had 0 cards in hand. The only card in hand when I ran HQ was the Fuji that I stole. And yeah, so they had 0 cards in hand. They fire a Rashida. They draw 3 and then 1 from their mandatory draw. And their turn is install, 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 bring them home. Big bring them home. And because I wasn't on full hand size or something beforehand, I end up taking like all of my clicks to draw. I think it's all of them, or it's like do that and install a daily cast or something. But I decide, right, we're on 5 points. We're gonna take a turn off. there's no threat here, but they just spent their last end of the last bring them home to do this play. So we're gonna just lay off. Um, and I go, draw to 5, your turn. And they go, oh, I think I kill you here. Res double Reaper functions. It's like score a sting or score a false lead into a blood the water or something. Oh, die. No steel skin. If I had a steel skin, didn't draw a single steel skin that game. Um, it was the right line for them to take. I think it was a bit of an all or nothing if I'd had a steel skin and I survived that turn. Like, I don't know how they could ever recover and win the game again. But I think that's one of the things that PE deck does really well, is create these spots where you just go, like, you're on 5 cards in hand. You didn't have the ability to contest last turn. Cool, you're dead. Like, there's 3 assets, 4 cards on the board or something. You can't do it. And I was like, that's my reward, I guess, for telling Cobra Bubbles that you should never lose to P. Because I'm going to lose to P. So we're now 3-1, and I'm kind of like a little on tilt now. I'm like, cool, I came here to like make the cut and demonstrate a point. That's not happening. I'm just going to be like a little, I don't know if I was salty for the rest of the day, but I was like a little on tilt maybe. So I play a game against Potat. He's playing Thunderbolt. Actually, really lovely guy. Like I had such a fun time playing against Potat. Really fun. Playing Thunderbolt and Padma. Turn 1 reses Tier on HQ. Turn 2 scores a Stegodon from hand because I clicked through the core damage sub, I think. Yeah, I steal 5 points very quickly. It's pretty good. And then at some point, triple ices R&D. And next time I'm like, cool, the agenda's in R&D. I've got resources and stuff. I'll run it. So res is Bloop. Res is Hagen. And it's like a wave or something on the innermost, which he de-reses to res the Bloop. And it turns out that like that Bloop is like 8 strength. I don't have that much money, but I do have like Echelon Turbine stuff. But I also have his Banhar on it. So I Banhar through it, Boomerang through the Hagen, let the last one fire, and I'm like, got a full twinning. And I'm like, this server cost me like a Boomerang and gave him a credit or something, or like 2 credits to get in. We win these. And so I go in, I'm like, pick up my twinning counters to spend them. And then I'm like, wait a second. What happens if I hit ganked on this run? If I hit ganked on this run, I have to encounter an 8 strength Bloop. It won't end the run, but it will probably like blow me out. I'll lose like a Turbine and this card that lets me deal with Bloop and Tier and such. I don't know if I can recover from, or like I just shouldn't take the risk, right? So I'm sat there for like 2 minutes, and half of me is like, you just win the game if you see 3 cards, and half of me is like, you just lose the game if you see see ganked. So I'm sat there for ages thinking about it, and eventually I like finally just go, no, I'm gonna jack out. He goes, no worries, and I go, gonna draw a card, and then I think to myself, wait a minute, I just jacked out. One to my Boomerang. And I look down, and it's not in the bin. It's not on the table. It must be in the deck. So I call the judge. Loki comes over. I explain, I'm pretty sure I've shuffled Boomerang into my deck. Here's what's happened. I just get to draw. And then Loki goes, I can't think of a way of fixing this. I think it's a game loss, mate. Really sorry. And I'm like, if that's your ruling, I get it. Like the deck's been shuffled and I've drawn a card. Like I do get that it's like difficult. And my opponent very, very kindly like leans over and goes like, Judge, I've lost this game. Between you and me, he's on 5 points, there's 2 points in archives. He like can't lose this game except by game lossing himself from a Boomerang shuffle. please don't game loss him. And then like, it's like, what do I do? And the guy's like, you look through his deck, you pull out a copy of Boomerang, you put it in the bin. And like she's like, you happy with that? And I was like, hey, I'm happy with that. And like, lose the Boomerang, win the game. Very very kind play from Potat. He was like, if the Thunderbolt's gonna get a win, it's gonna get a real win. And not letting it be on game loss. Um, so I thought, yeah, that was very funny. I had another judge call earlier in the day because I forgot to discard down to hand size. I think. I think that might have been in my first game against Bar. Um, which yeah, I just didn't know what I was doing that day. Just not with it. Um, the second round of that, I play against a Padma, which is like a pretty normal game. The Padma actually like prints money using an Aesop's engine thing. Um, I think Potat just high rolled it, but yeah. Eventually, he's doing infinite catalog of digs on R&D. Seems kind of good. Um, there's like a turn where I go and I push in the remote, and then I ice the remote to make sure he can't get in there. Then his turn starts, and then I immediately go, and he immediately goes, "Well, I wasn't getting in there before the ice, so I'm gonna focus on R&D because my deck says focus on R&D." And I looked down at the board state, and there was no world in which he was getting into the remote. Like his only option was to go on R&D, and if I just put that mick on R&D, he can't steal an Ichor and can't win the game. Um, but what happens? He runs R&D, charges the cataloger. I forgot that he infinitely charges the cataloger, gets in, wins the game. I thought the Panama deck was actually super impressive. I liked the cataloger like stuff, and I liked the pressure. He had very interesting breaker sweep. I think some good choices, some like questionable choices. But I don't know if he's published that, but definitely a deck that for Padma stands. I know they exist. One to look out for, I think. Um, and yeah, round four I play against Jankgeister. Uh, they are an old Norwich player, but before my time. First game they're playing Grinder PE. We played for like 45 minutes or something of me just playing like good Netrunner. Get to 5 points, get lots of good accesses. Eventually, like I think there's a reap function on the table behind some ice. Eventually pinhole it. It's actually snare. And then like I lose the game like a turn later. I like ran out of my deck a long time before that. If I had the Ashen Epilogue, oof, oof, this game would have been like a piece of cake. It would have been so easy. But instead, like, we did run out of deck and we did die. And uh sad. Second game, Jengis is playing Padma. I think is a very similar deck to the Padma I played in the previous round, but he doesn't draw the cards in the right order and it isn't like a sick like value engine and loses the game. Um Final round, I get paired up against XCam, playing Asa and Essa. I played against XCam at least once before, but at this point, like I'm like not playing. We're like playing very silly Netrunner. I keep a hand that doesn't have Banker. The one thing you need in the Asa matchup is Banhar. It's like, does Hashiko install Banhar turn one? Asa's chances of winning plummet pretty severely, I think. Um, Maybe for Giant that's not true, but for like every other uh Asa player that is true. And like yeah, and I keep it because it's got economy and it's got a finality. And I think to myself, wouldn't it be funny if I played finality on turn one? So I do. Still 2 points. There's a turn in the middle of the game where he has a 5 iced remote and pushes the Ikawa like install advance the Ikawa on the table. And I go like, if one of these unres ice isn't border control, I do just get in. So I ran it and I get in for like 2 credits. Um and then steal the Ikawa. And then I get a couple of good access after that. I get a lot of more triggers that game that appear to just hit nothing. Just spare ice, I think. And eventually he is able to like clutch out. I get some good accesses in there at the end. Like I think, despite the fact that I just didn't play it seriously or well, like I did all right. And then in the last game of the day, he's playing Essa, and I get like flooded early. There's like yeah, I can't remember how this game went, but there's like some weird turn early on. He does manage to crack my remote and steal something, and then like he double Chastushka legworks me on like turn three, steals more points. There's agendas in the bin. He runs the bin at some point and sees Ikua, but can't steal it. And I do manage to put like score 4 points and push the Ikua. The Ikua push is just like entirely bad and unnecessary though. Like I would have needed to spend multiple turns improving that server with either more ice or like anoetic. And in the process of doing that, I like almost certainly would have lost anyway. But like I did a good push. I did a terrible push, but like I played the game to my outs broadly. I think I did a questionable keep, but yeah, like the last round, I like won like 3 games all day. I was uh not playing my best netrunner at that point. I was trying. I wasn't playing my best netrunner at that point. So that's the end of the day. Um, so we've got the prizes. We didn't win any games, and we turned up 45 minutes late. And I didn't get any sleep, and like all of the food I ate that day was like sandwiches that came in a packet. I was like, I was like really fed up and tired basically as we left the tournament, which is like so rare for me. Going to netrun tournaments is like the thing I love the most. Love doing it. Always have a great time. I like saw friends of mine at that tournament and like chatted to them for like 5 seconds before realizing like I just didn't have it in me to like sit down and have proper chat, which is a real shame. Um, yeah. So feeling like glum, feeling a bit bad, coming back, and then we've got a 4 hour car journey ahead of us to get home with like a stop off at services, and like charging the electric car can be a little tough. So I'm like not looking forward to this journey home. And then it is really, really fun. Like those 3 guys who I was traveling with are like yeah, just some of my best friends in the whole world. And part of the half of the reason why going to network tournaments is so fun is because I get to hang out with my mates and like I we just had a blast. Cannot remember a single thing we talked about. I think we talked about Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai. I think we talked about all sorts of nonsense. We had like long conversations about the narrative of the liberation cycle. But we just had a laugh. Like we just had a really good time, and by the end of it, I was actually really, really happy and really like had a great time. So yeah, it's like just wonderful to me that I can like go play some terrible netrunner, do badly, be stressed, and then still have it be like a lovely weekend where when I get home and I speak to my girlfriend and she's like, "Oh, how was it?" I can genuinely be like, "Really fun, like really good." Um, I spent as many hours in the car as I did in the tournament, and it was super fun. Like, so yeah, that's basically everything. Um, I can't remember much. We didn't stick around for the cut, which is a real shame. I always like to stick for as much of the cut as we can. Um, I think the other EA Sports members had fun stories that I can't remember, so apologies for that. But yeah, I now have. I'm not going to Scottish regionals. Sad. Um, but uh, that actually means I got a 4 week break between tournaments, which I'm kind of grateful for. I think like I've been a bit stressed out and tired, uh, in general, not just in Netrunner, and I think having a couple of weekends would be nice. Um, if people have like fun corp decks that they think are like good work in progress decks, I want to collaborate, send them my way because looking for something new on the Corp side. But yeah, cool. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah, and see you in a month for the Cambridge regionals. Bye.